Yeah.
First thing first, I grabbed my jigsaw and started cutting the pallet into pieces. So for this project, I actually used only 2 pallets. Oh yeah, really, I just tried cutting the jigsaw. It was taking forever, so I went for my circular saw to cut this thing chap chap, eh? And I did exactly that. So I made sure I cut the pallet into 2 identical pieces, meaning I was left with that extra piece you've seen me put away. And I did exactly the same for the second pallet, meaning I'll have the top and I have the sides. My top side of the pallet and then the sides, which will act as the legs. Make sense? Yeah, so you see, those are 3 similar pieces. And then I have to cut out like 1 part out, and then they're all identical. Now I'm measuring to remove the excess side. And I cut that out as well. I did that, so that is 1 leg already. You can see. I cut this other one, that's another leg. And then now my circular, kama kawaida, maze jigsaw was taking forever. And that's my bro Maze there helping me with an old seat. We were trying to reupholster that so that it can become my piano seat. So you see this one that I'm chucking the solid pallet nini, that is my top. That is my top. And my top doesn't require to be heavy. So I'm trying to remove this one block, it katad. Then I finally gave up, Maze, and took over Broski, chucked the sponging. It was an old dining set. So all I needed was that frame. See that frame you're seeing right there? Meaning I'll now add cushioning and fabric. The only thing from that old dining set is that the back rest was chopped off. I cut it out because I didn't need that. You don't need that for a piano seat. Yeah. You see, that's reused plywood. It's already painted on one end. It was, I think, a ceiling for some space. But ilitolewa vizuri. That's what I'm reusing to cover base and hold the foam vizuri before the fabric. So you see these two are my legs. So one will be on the left side, the other on the right side, and then the top will kuja there. The top will kuja up there, then I'll screw it. Does it make sense? Abu, it you'll see. It will make sense in a few by the time the product is done. And then what else happened? Oh yeah, I later on had to add a second shelf with gliding, what are they called, these things? I had to make a gliding shelf that came beneath the main top so that I can put some of my MIDI keyboard hapo hivyo. And then since a pallet, the wood is not consistent, there are spaces in between. So imagine my surface being like that, meaning like kama niko na mouse itaanguka. So what I later on added, instead of filling up with wood, yet I just needed to use those 2 pallets, I went and had glass cut to fit my tabletop. Yeah. So I had glass that was 5 mm thick for my tabletop. So meaning now my table became continuous, consistent. That's how I solved my problem. Other than trying to look for more wood, ama cut out another pallet just to fill those 2 spaces katikati. Imagine. So that's the other leg. What I'm doing is now I'm reinforcing by screwing the wood to those, those 2 square solid wood parts that usually come with pallets. I'm just reinforcing to make sure everything is firm. Because once you tuanisha a pallet ama you cut out, then it starts becoming weak. So you have to make sure make it firm. And that's exactly what you're seeing me do there. I am drilling holes and I am screwing screws left, right, center. Making sure I've covered all my bases, Mazi. Literally. See, chap chap. I'm telling you, when you have power tools, everything is easy. Kwanza, even by this time, I didn't have a driver, like the electrical one to help me unscrew and screw. I was doing that physical. That's why you see my hand has a glove. Because sometimes when you're screwing with a screwdriver, maze, kuna venye tu hiyo friction. Inaweza kufanya kazi yako ikuwe polepole. So I had to, put on a glove and screw those screws. Like I was born to do that, man. Now I'm cutting out those excess two wood pieces that are popping out and are not needed. Yeah, so now you see, does it make sense now? That's why I cut those 3 parts. It's making sense. Yeah. And then you see here the black thing is now the framework for the dining seat that I cut out the backrest. This one. So it's gonna form my piano seat. You can see it right there. So now I'm shughulikiaing the tabletop. I'm reinforcing, as I told you, making sure everything is in place. Because I noticed also some of the wood pieces that are running across on the pallets are kidogo loose. So you see I had to reinforce all that. This is something you and I can just do at home with 2 pallets. And if I'm not wrong, these pallets were measuring 4 foot by 6 foot. So I'm still on the tabletop, eh? And also now, you see now that plank of wood that's hanging here, that's placed on the wall before ile unaona uko mbali. This one that's alone, not the one that's ziko tatu, this one that's one. That one is for the side, because now for the tabletop, one side will be like open, like as you're seeing the one that's already leaning on the wall. So now to avoid that, I had to add a piece of wood hapo. And then ile pale imebaki, imagine, ngoja uone tu kenye nitafanya nayo. I decided to reinforce and connect the left side and the right side, because if you don't do that, then see the mesa will be dancing. So I had to make sure it's firm. Now you're looking at that table inakaa hivyo, you see it. So now those are the only woods I nganganad, yeah, these 2. And then I cut out with my jigsaw and made a joint so that they run across on the back side. You're seeing them running across on the back side, so it's like an X. Ideally, what I'm just doing is reinforcing and making sure it's reduced. That was me sealing up the piano stool, and voila, this is the final product. Now on top of this, I told you I added a gliding shelf. Hapo hivyo chini unaona hizi pallet whatever, hapo ndio ka shelf kalitokezea. And then I also added a glass top. So this is how it looks.